This is the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's fourth trip to the Middle East since the beginning of escalation of the war between Hamas militants and Israel. According to a number of American media, the decision on the necessity of Blinken's visit was made after the liquidation of one of the leaders of Hamas militants in Beirut. The U.S. State Department is concerned about the risk of expanding the war in the Middle East.
Alongside Blinken, U.S. diplomatic envoy Amos Hochstein is also slated to travel to Israel. Hochstein's primary goal is to soothe tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, a powerful Lebanese militant group. These developments come in the wake of Hezbollah's pledge to respond to the killing of the Hamas leader in Beirut, from a BNN publication quoting senior U.S. officials.
On December 26 in Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Strategic Planning Minister Ron Dermer to discuss Israel's plans to wind down the war and move to a low-intensity operation in Gaza. This was reported by Axios Media, citing Israeli and American senior officials.
It's clear that the conflict will move and needs to move to a lower-intensity phase. And we expect to see and want to see a shift to more targeted operations with a smaller number of forces that's really focused in on dealing with the leadership of Hamas, the tunnel network, and a few other critical things.
On December 23rd, U.S. President Joe Biden held telephone talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It was about the humanitarian aid access to Gaza Strip and the release of hostages held by Hamas. According to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. President Joe Biden pursued Netanyahu not to attack the militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon, as they fear that it would launch an attack on northern Israel.
It is not true. Israel is a sovereign state. Our decisions in the war are based on our operational considerations, and I will not elaborate on that. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel.
On January 3rd, the Israel Defense Forces released footage of strikes against Hezbollah terrorists in the Lebanon town of Yarun. In response, Lebanon fired several rockets at Israel. The head of the Israel Defense Forces said the Israeli army is ready to repel attacks from the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah.
Based on my impressions, we are in a very high state of readiness in the north. I visit here often. I think our readiness is at its peak. There is a lot of expertise, great capabilities, and high morale. We are in very high readiness in all sectors, and we are currently focusing on fighting Hamas. First of all, we are looking forward to changing our routine defense measures. We are going to have more soldiers on the borders for at least the next year.
At the same time, the Israeli army and Hezbollah issued statements on January 3rd indicating that the sides wanted to avoid the risk of the war spreading further outside the Gaza Strip. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.